Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. For days, we have watched as a growing caravan of Honduran nationals has snaked northward toward our border to claim asylum here. The spectacle has been televised from the very start, and it has sparked an explosive political debate. Now, more migrants are on the way. There are reports tonight that another caravan of asylum seekers, this one organized exclusively on social media, is planning to leave from El Salvador next week, heading here. You can be certain that when and if that group actually arrives here, the usual red-faced cable news anchors will demand that we let them in immediately, no questions asked. Never mind that one-third of all Salvadorans on Earth already live here in the United States. It is our duty, they will tell us. Once those anchors get off the air, they will return home to entirely immigrant-free neighborhoods feeling good about themselves. The only Salvadorans they will ever meet personally are those doing their laundry for minimum wage. But ignore the hypocrisy if you can. Stifle your personal concerns about mass immigration. People are suffering, they're telling us, and only America can save them. If you've been watching television, you've seen pictures like this all day of desperate poverty and hopelessness. Oh, sorry about that. That was the wrong tape. That was not a slum outside Tegucigalpa. That video was shot right here in Orange County, California, not far from Disneyland. The desperate and impoverished people on the screen you saw were American citizens. Hundreds of thousands of them sleep on the ground every night in this country. They don't make it on CNN very often. They're just Americans. Their tragedy is not interesting. If they did laundry at $5 an hour for rich people, though, our moral superiors might notice and care. But as of now, no, the cable news geniuses could not be less concerned about what is happening to American citizens. Which, if you think about it, kind of explains the Trump phenomenon. One of the great mysteries here in Washington is how a president with no prior political experience, who's emotionally volatile and not very articulate, remains nevertheless so very popular outside of Washington. It doesn't make any sense, but of course it makes sense. Trump's secret? He says things like this.
They have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.
A nationalist. In other words, a leader who puts his own country first, who cares about his own people most. You'd think everyone in charge of a nation would be a nationalist. Putting the interests of your own citizens above those of citizens of other countries was once considered a prerequisite for running a democracy. Not anymore. Now it's considered immoral, evil, in fact. Watch this.
Nationalist. Use that word. We're going to talk about that word tonight. It is a favorite of the alt-right and is loaded with nativists and racial undertones.
He's weaponized race and sort of nationalism and dog whistles.
You're suggesting there's some kind of dog whistle there.
It is. It applies. It does provoke hate activities.
What are you trying to say as President of the United States, that you're a nationalist? Americans know what that means. It's not even a dog whistle anymore. It's a bullhorn.
Not a whistle. It's a bullhorn. Hitler was a nationalist. Of course, so were Mahatma Gandhi and Abraham Lincoln and every other leader of every other nation state throughout history until about 20 minutes ago. But whatever. Nationalism provokes, quote, hate activity, says a sitting U.S. senator. All the cable news geniuses say amen.
There was a time, in my lifetime, I'm not that old, when a picture like that would have just elicited nothing but sympathy and empathy among the American people. You see that and you think, oh my God, what must be happening where those people are coming from? How can we open our arms to people like that?
These people are coming and asking for asylum. Guess what, Ben? It's in our laws that people are allowed to come to our borders and ask for asylum.
This is a moral outrage that harkens to the worst excesses in the history of the country, to the separation of families at the slave auction blocks, to the separation of Native American families.
Hope you're following that at home. Immigration, it turns out, is not a civic question that American voters might be allowed to have opinions about. It's bigger than that. It's a moral outrage. It's a humanitarian crisis. The law is irrelevant here. So are any of your stupid, selfish concerns about the effect of impoverished foreigners moving into your neighborhood or your school district. The rule here is simple. Listen carefully. If people from a place poorer than America want to move to America, they get to do that, period. If you disagree or complain or do anything other than recite the poem at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, you are, well, you already know what you are because you've heard it 1,000 times, but we're going to tell you again anyway. Maybe this time it will penetrate. You are a racist.
They see those pictures and are being told, fear those brown people.
The Democrats are a diverse party. The Republicans appeal disproportionately to older whites. And the mob thing is an attempt to alarm those voters about the prospect of non-whites and immigrants.
The right-wing coverage of this, is it demagoguery? How would you describe this?
It is demagoguery, Brian. It is also, I believe, racism and nativism, really pandering to the fears of Trump supporters and Fox News viewers.
Yep, you're racist, just like you were racist for opposing Obamacare or not watching Sunday Night Football or believing that Brett Kavanaugh did not sexually assault someone. You are a bigot until the moment you obey the Democratic Party, at which point you are a good person like Al Sharpton or Louis Farrakhan. You know the drill. There's one interesting new twist in this latest propaganda barrage, though: fear. If you're against admitting an entire caravan full of poor people into this country, it's because you've been coached by that dastardly Fox News to fear the people in the caravan. But let's be honest, that's not really true. There are a lot of reasons to oppose admitting this caravan full of people. We don't need any more low-wage labor in this country, for one thing. We also have a right to decide who occupies our property. That's always true. Show up uninvited at Joy Reid's house, and you'll discover that she agrees with that principle, too. So there are good reasons to oppose this. Fear of Hondurans isn't really one of them. By and large, these are not scary people. Mostly they're just poor people from crappy countries who want a better life. That's understandable. Nobody blames them for that. Nobody's really afraid of these people. What normal people are afraid of is this.
We believe survivors! We believe survivors! We believe survivors!
And this. So look closely at those videos. What didn't you see in them? Migrant fruit pickers from Honduras. There weren't any. There wasn't a single impoverished Central American immigrant. The only work boots you saw in those videos were from Brooklyn. They're part of the hipster costume. They're not real. Those were thoroughly American kids, kids with clean fingernails, children of privilege. Those were people with 4-year college degrees. Some of those people teach in colleges. What you just saw was the activist left. That's a group about as diverse as the checkout line at Whole Foods. These are not immigrants. They're far too pampered and decadent to be immigrants. These are homegrown religious extremists who believe in nothing but their own power. Suddenly, people exactly like this hold congressional seats, and they host their own TV shows, and they teach at your kid's school. These are the people worth worrying about. So cool it with the lectures about fear. Listen carefully, cable news geniuses. It's not impoverished peasants from Central America we're afraid of. It's you.